What is up, guys? Sushi Mancer here. I want to take a new approach to budget commander videos. Not specifically brand new, but I want to start doing $100 deck decks instead of just $25 and budget, because making $100 decks gives me a larger pool of commanders to use. For example, Anje Falkenrath, which I'm going to cover in this video. So Anje Falkenrath is a 3 mana vampire that has a 1/3 body and has haste. And if she reads, you tap to discard a card, then draw a card. Whenever you discard a card, if it has madness, untap Anje Falkenrath. So this deck is $100, and I'll get into the actual list. So this deck is running 32 creatures with madness, such as Anya's Ravager. We have Asylum Visitor, which also lets you draw cards and lose a life if you have no cards in hand. Then we have Big Game Hunter. It's a 3 mana 1/1 that enters the battlefield, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, but you can pay it for its madness cost. Oh, let me just get into madness. So madness is a mechanic when so it reads madness 1. If you discard this card, discard it into exile. When you do, cast it for its madness cost or put it into your graveyard. So every time you discard a card with Anye, you're able to cast it for its madness cost because you're discarding it. And if you do, and if you discard a card that has madness, you basically untap Anje Falkenrath. So it's just back to this. We have Big Game Hunter, then we have Bloodkeep Demon. It's a 5 mana 5/4 demon that has flying, and that reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, target player draws 1 card and loses 1 life. This is to help you draw cards throughout the game if the game starts to get a bit slower. Then we have Bloodhole Priest, also madness, but you can, when it enters, you deal 2 damage to any target. But usually in this deck, you want to be looting with rummaging. So rummaging is when you discard first before drawing, and drawing is when you draw first and then discard. So you basically want to rummage. Then we have Bloodhole Priest. Then we have Blood Mad Vampire, also just a madness creature. I'm gonna go through the madness creatures very quickly because usually you just use them for their madness ability. Then we have Dualcaster Mage. As you guys might have known or seen, all red decks that I have include Dualcaster Mage. This is an infinite combo of an infinite Dualcaster Mage combo with, where is Twin Flame? There we go. So you play Twin Flame, targeting a creature for 2 mana. Then you flash in Dualcaster Mage for 3 mana. You target Twin Flame, and then you copy Twin Flame when it enters. You copy Twin Flame targeting Dualcaster Mage, and then through the copy that you made of Twin Flame, you target Dualcaster Mage again, and then you repeat this process until you have a very large army of Dualcaster Mages. And through Twin Flame, they gain haste until end of turn, but they are exiled at your end step. But they do gain haste, so you can essentially attack for lethal unless someone has a ghostly prison or something that's stopping you, but otherwise you'll be able to attack for lethal. Then we have Glinthorn Buccaneer. Whenever you discard a card, Glinthorn Buccaneer deals 1 damage to each opponent, and it has haste. And then you can pay 2 to discard a card, draw a card, again rummaging, and you can only activate this when she is attacking. But you can use this to drop everyone's life total by 1 each time you rummage with Anje Falkenrath. Then we have Gorgon Recluse, just for its madness cost, but the madness cards, some of them have abilities by themselves, but you mostly want to discard them to untap Anya and then continue rummaging. We have Grave Scroller, also madness 2. Then we have Uncorrigible Youths. Also, it's a 4/3 creature that you can pay for 3 mana, but again, you want the madness cost out of it. Then we have Mug Drub, also a madness creature. We have Nightshade Assassin. It's also madness 2. And then we also have, where is it? Painseer. So you might have seen in all of the decks that I use that use black, I include Painseer. When Painseer becomes untapped, you reveal the top card of your library, you put it in your hand, and then you lose life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So to me, that's like a Dark Confidant whenever it gets untapped. So it just nets you value. Then we have the Reckless Worm, also just a madness creature. Then we have Simian Spirit Guide, which I will get to. This is basically just fast mana. You exile it from your hand to add 1 red that you can use to play Anje Falkenrath turn 2 in some cases. Then we have Twins of Mordred Estate, just a madness card. We have Weirded Vampire, just a vanilla creature, but it has madness. And then we're going to get to Worldgorger Dragon. So Worldgorger Dragon, when it enters the battlefield, you exile all other permanents you control. And then when it leaves the battlefield, you return the exile cards to the battlefield under their owner control. But in this deck, you're going to use Animate Dead and Worldgorger Dragon. So I'm just going to explain what Animate Dead does. Is you enchant creatures in a graveyard. When Animate Dead enters the battlefield, if it's on the battlefield, it loses enchant creature card in a graveyard and gains enchant creature card put onto the battlefield with Animate Dead. Return enchant card to the battlefield under your control, and attach Animate Dead to it. When Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, that creature's controller sacrifices it. That's very relevant because you play Animate Dead, he enters, you enchant. Okay, so you discard Worldgorger Dragon through Anya. You play Animate Dead, targeting Worldgorger Dragon. Worldgorger Dragon enters, sees all your permanents, and then you exile them. This means that Animate Dead's trigger is put onto the stack, where you sacrifice the creature that you enchanted if Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, and then Worldgorger Dragon goes to your graveyard again. Then Animate Dead comes back because all permanents that are exiled comes back when Worldgorger Dragon is not on the battlefield anymore. So what you do then is you tap all your lands for mana. You tap Anya, you discard a card and draw. Then Animate Dead targets Worldgorger Dragon in the graveyard again. And by doing this, you demonstrate a loop by exiling all your permanents, including Anya, and she has haste, so you can discard a card and then draw a card. And then you tap all your lands, generating infinite mana, and with this you can draw your entire deck. But so mostly with this deck you want to be generating infinite mana and then dig through Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame. But that's the Worldgorger Dragon Animate Dead combo in this deck. That's the main combo that I use. Then for sorceries, we have Alchemist's Greed, also a madness card. Alms of the Vein, you deal 3 damage, each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life, but it also has madness for 1. Then we have Avacyn's Judgment, just a madness creature with X. Then we have Biting Rain, it's a small board wipe for 3 mana. All creatures get -2/-2, but again we're using it for its madness. Then we have Diabolic Intent, one of the better and it's cheap, but it's also a very good tutor to use in any mono black any black using deck. You sacrifice a creature and you search a card, you put it in your hand and then shuffle. So it's a very efficient tutor. Then we have Diabolic Tutor, still 4 mana, search a card, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. We have this Temper of the Blood, it's also just a madness cost. Then we have Faceless Looting, just to loot for 2 cards and draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. And if Anje Falkenrath is tapped and you discard a card with madness, she untaps, which is a cool interaction. Then we have from under the floorboards, you discard it and then you pay X2 black to create. So when you just cast it for 5 mana, you create 3 tap 2/2 black zombie creature tokens and you gain 3 life. But if you discard it and then pay 2 black and X, if this spell's madness cost was paid, instead create X of those tokens and you gain X life. So this is also a way to create a lot of tokens and gain a lot of life through infinite mana that you get from Worldgorger Dragon and Animate Dead. It is also a win condition, it's something to use your mana for. Then we have Grim Tutor, it's a 3 mana sorcery tutor that lets you search for any card, you shuffle, You put it in your hand, you shuffle, and then you lose 3 life, which isn't that a big of a deal. It's still pretty efficient. You have Ichor Slick, you can cycle it or you can discard it for madness. We have Illicit Shipment. So it's a 5 mana sorcery that helps you that lets you search your library for a card. You put it in your hand and then you shuffle. But if you have casualty 3, you can sacrifice a creature with power 3 or greater, and then you can copy it. Then we have Malevolent Whispers. It's just a madness card in this deck. Murderous Compulsion, just madness, but if you discard it and pay 2 mana, you can destroy tapped creature, which is pretty cool. Then we have Peer into the Abyss. It's something to do with all the mana that you generate. You say target player draws cards equal to the half of the number of cards in the library and lose half of the life, round it up each time. So let's say you're on 6 life, you draw half of your library and then you lose half of 6 life. So it's very good even if you're on low health, but it's a very good card. It's used in most decks. Then we have Psychotic Episode. It's just a madness card. Then we have Read the Bones. I think it's scry 2, draw 2 cards, and then use 2 life for 3 mana, which is very, very good card draw in mono black. Then we have Twin Flame. I already explained Twin Flame and Dualcaster Mage. Then for Incense, we have Abandon Reason. It's just a madness card, really. Then we have Dark Ritual. It's 1 black to add 3 black to your mana pool, just to ramp you up and maybe use some spells or drop Anje on turn 2, which can be done. Dark Withering is one of my favorites. It's Madness 1, and then for 1 mana, okay, it's Madness, you untap Anje, and then you destroy target non-black creature. Then we have Death Withering, then we have Eliminate. You destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana cost 3 or less. It's very good to use if someone steals Anya. You can use this to get her back by killing her and then replaying her, or you can destroy very low mana cost commanders, which isn't uncommon in Commander. Then you have Entomb. Search a library for a card, put that card in your graveyard, then shuffle. This is used to put the Worldgorger dragon into your graveyard and then apply Animate Dead to enchant it and then start the loop. Then we have Faithless Salvaging. It's a discard a card, draw a card, and it has rebound, so you play it at the beginning of your next upkeep. But it's 2 mana and it's instant speed. Then we have Fiery Temper. It's a madness card that lets you deal 3 damage to target creature or player. So for 1 mana, you discard it, you untap Anya, and then you can deal 3 damage to a creature. It's good to use against Notion Thief and just pesky creatures like Aven Mind Sensor. Then Hardest Act, you destroy target creature with no counters on it, or you remove 3 counters. Then Mausoleum Secrets, one of the more efficient tutors in this deck. It has Undergrowth. Search your library for a black card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. So use this to get Animate Dead if you have Worldgorger Dragon in your hand for 2 mana, and Animate Dead's mana cost is 2, so you only need 2 creatures in your graveyard. But because of all the discarding, you will have a very big graveyard. Then Mock Salvage, it's pretty cool. It's a little bit niche because you won't always, like in most cases, you'll be able to use it, but it's a 3 mana instant that lets you destroy a target artifact. But if an opponent controls an island and you control a mountain, you may cast the spell without paying its mana cost. And then we have Necrologia. It's a 5 mana instant that you need to discard at your end step, I believe. Then you pay X life and draw X cards, which is a very good card. It's very budget as well. I think it stands at $1.4. It acts as a Necropotence, and if you have a card that says you have no a hand size, you'll be able to keep all the cards you draw. And in Commander, it's not a lot of life for what you get out of it. Then we have Price of Fame, one of the best removal spells in Mono Black, in my opinion, especially budget. You destroy target creature you surveil to. It costs 4 mana and is an instant, but it costs 2 less if that target's a legendary. So it's good to get rid of commanders that way. Then you have Psychotic Haze. It's just a madness creature. Then we have Shadow of the Grave, which is very good in this deck. It's a 2 mana instant that says return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn. So let's say you play Anya, you discard, draw a card, and you loot. Like for an example, you get 10 madness creatures, madness cards. Like okay, let's say 7. You loot, you rummage 7 madness creatures or cards. You play this for 2 mana and then you get all of them back, and then you can repeat this process. It's very good in Anya. I think once at a FNM, I did this to rummage, I think 12 or 10 times. It's very good in Anya. It makes sense. Then Violent Eruption. It's just a madness creature, a madness card, but you can for 3 mana deal 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. Maybe to get rid of mana dorks for low mana. Then just to get into the mana rocks, you're running Arcane Signet for 2 mana, and then it taps for any color in your commander's identity. It's one of the best mana rocks in EDH. Then Charcoal Diamond, it comes in tap, but you can tap it for 1 black. Corrupted Gravestone, it's 2 mana, it comes in tap, and then it says choose a color of a card in your graveyard, add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool. And because you're discarding a lot, it will always be active. Then Everflowing Chalice, it's 0 mana, but it has multi-kicker 2. And then each time you kick it from multi-kicker 2, it taps for 1 more mana. And then, okay, let's say you play this with 0 mana and then you multi-kicker once. Then Everflowing Chalice taps for 1 mana, but if you multi-kicker it twice, it taps for 2 mana and it just ramps up from there. But in some cases, you'll just want to play this for multi-kicker 2, because it's most efficient unless you have mana to sink into Everflowing Chalice, but just paying 2 mana or multi-kicking it once is fine. Then we have Falwar Stone. It's 2 mana, it doesn't come in tapped, and then you can add it to add to your mana pool 1 mana of any color that the land and opponent controls could produce. Then we have Fire Diamond, same as Charcoal Diamond. It comes in tap, but it taps for 1 red. Then we have Lightning Greaves, a way to protect Anya, to give her Shroud. She already has haste, so you're not using it to give her haste, but playing Anya and then equipping for 0 is very good, and you want to keep Anya alive if you are looking to combo. Then we have Mind Stone. It's 2 mana, taps for 1 colorless, and then you can tap 1, you can pay 1 tap and draw a card. Then we have Prismatic Lens, same, but you can cycle colorless mana into colored mana, or you can just tap it for 1 mana. Then we have Rakdos Signet, 2 mana. You add 1 mana to it, and then it taps for Rakdos colors. It's basically it turns 1 mana into 2. But you need to sink mana into it. But it's still a very good mana rock. Then Soul Ring, enabling a lot of mana rocks in this deck. You play turn 1 and then you tap it for 2 mana, and it can basically, it allows you to play most of, like, not most, but like every single mana rock in the deck. You can play on turn 1 if you have Soul Ring. Then Swiftfoot Boots, a little bit worse than Lightning Greaves, but it does the same thing. It just gives hexproof instead of Shroud and haste, but its equip cost is 1. Then Talisman of Indulgence. It's 2 mana, taps 1 colorless, or you can add black or red to your mana pool, and then it deals 1 damage to you. And then there's Thought Vessel. It's 2 mana. You have no maximum hand size. It taps for 1 colorless, and I think like most of the mana rocks was chosen to be played after Soul Ring turn 1 if you have all of them in your hand, which is a very good deal, especially if you want Anje Falkenrath down on the battlefield on turn 2. And it's ways to do that even with Simian Spirit Guide, but I've gotten into Animate Dead. Then there is Descent into Avernus. For 3 mana, it's a 3 mana enchantment that reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, put 2 Descent counters on Descent into Avernus. Then each player creates X treasure tokens, and Descent into Avernus deals X damage to each player, where X is a number of Descent counters on Descent into Avernus. So this not only burns all players, even including yourself. But you can use this to generate tokens that you use. And then one of the I've actually won with Faith of the Devoted. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So let's say you're playing Worldgorger Dragon and you are netting infinite mana, like let's say 10 mana per turn, and you are looting. You can pay 1 mana into Faith of the Devoted. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, and then you can continue on doing this until the whole board is dead. Then into the lands, we're running 7 mountains and 10 swamps, but we're also running Command Tower, which taps for any color of your commander identity. Dragon Skull Summit comes in untapped if you control an island or a mountain or swamp. Then you have Evolving Wilds, lets you tutor for any basic, but in this case it will be either a mountain or a swamp. You have Exotic Orchard, it taps for any color a land an opponent controls could produce. So I think a lot of decks run black in the color identity. Field of Ruin, you pay 2, it taps for colorless, but you pay 2 mana and then you destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls. Each player searches his or her library for a basic land, puts it in the battlefield, then shuffles his or her library. Then the 7 mountains, we have Reliquary Tower, which helps with Necrologia and Shadow of the Grave. You have no maximum hand size and it taps for 1 colorless. Then Smoldering Marsh, it's a swamp mountain, comes in tapped unless you control 2 or more basics. So it's a little bit slower than the other mana in the deck, but it's still a mountain, a swamp and a mountain. So it's not a bad turn 1 land. Sulphurous Mine, it's a swamp mountain that comes in tap, but it's also a snow land. Then we have Sulphurous Springs, one of the better lands and faster lands in this deck. It's a pain land. You tap it for 1 colorless, or you add black or red to your mana pool, and then it deals 1 damage to you. You have 10 swamps. We have Temple of Malice. It comes in tapped, a very great turn 1 play, or later on you can scry 1 to look at the top of your library if you want to start rummaging or not. And then we have last but not least, Terramorphic Expanse. I kept most of the land's budget to be able to fit in expensive tutors like Grim Tutor, Diabolic Intent, but Terramorphic Expanse does the same thing as Evolving Wilds. You search for your land for a basic land, it comes in tapped. Sure, okay, now I can breathe. But that's it for the deck. If you are interested in the list, it's $99.05. I didn't know what to include otherwise than what I already did. Most of the deck is actually my list that I play in person. There it is. I used my list and updated it to be more expensive, closer to $100, to be able to get most of the budget into the deck. But yeah guys, if you like this video, let me know and I will start making more $100 deck tech videos. I think a $100 limit is a little bit more easy than $25, because it does limit you to what cards you need to use, and I think a $100 is a lot more flexible. You can add, let's say, Grim Tutor $15. Diabolic Intent is still cheap, like it's $7.6, which is cheap for a tutor for 2 mana. But yeah, if you guys like this video, just let me know and I'll start working on a series. I have some ideas for who to build next, but I wanted to launch this $100 series off by using a deck that I own in person. But yeah, anyways guys, stay safe and I'll see you guys in the next one.